couldn't get a couch. All right, welcome to First World Problems with Paul's fat ass overfed ego.
If you think, hold up.
He's a fun guy, though.
No, that whole thing is fucking crazy. The recorder's in here, so like,
Yeah.
all right, let's
So I'll try to set the mood a little bit and say, for anyone who isn't familiar, there used to be a community called the YouTube atheist community back around, I want to say 2012, 2013, somewhere around there.
It was back in like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Well, that's when back then I thought was 2012 he was the second player.
If we're gonna go back into the primordial muck of it all, like technically this shit started in like 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think TJ's been around since 2007, 2008.
Because Brett was on YouTube.
Yeah,
Brett since the beginning, right?
That first generation, yeah.
That's one of Brett's original A-logs from back in the day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you look up edible napalm, you'll get a lot of videos between the two of them. There's one where he drew. Matt, do you want to tell him about the, not to go on too many tangents, but the video about the art piece that you made of Brett?
If he even remembers.
This is what I was talking about with the pregnant pauses.
Yeah.
Matt,
I've heard of. I remember edible napalm from back in the day. It sounds familiar. I'm just not. I'm not able to place like the content with the name, but I do remember hearing about your channel.
His claim to fame was a video he made where he was just talking about going to the grocery store and being mistaken for a lady multiple times, even though he had a big fucking bushy beard. And
he screamed "bitch" beard at her.
Yeah.
I know that after there was the atheist community in like the late 2000s, and then there was the second wave of it where it was like the anti-SJW stuff.
Well, there was a transitionary phase between the atheist community and the quote-unquote skeptic community.
Oh,
everybody turned into Nazis or fucking bread tubers.
And a big figure of that being TJ at the time.
The skeptic community was, contrary to what a person might initially think,
more like the septic community because they're poo.
We're more like because essentially like most of the Christians who bothered to interact with atheists kind of like either left YouTube or stopped making that sort of content, or kind of fell to the wayside. There wasn't really anybody to fight with on that front anymore. So the skeptics came along to start facing.
Yeah, we were like Buffalo Bill, just shooting all the fucking buffalo.
So the skeptics came along to take a gander at what was left, and what was left was a bunch of like weird conspiracy theory guys, flat earthers, fucking moon hoaxers, and Bigfoot enjoyers, and all these types of people. So the skeptic community started talking about those people and responding to what they say, and kind of like say, here's how you be skeptical about these sorts of things, blah, blah, blah. And then this kind of gave rise to there was a little bit of a schism, because the online atheists realized that outside of not being theists, they really didn't have a whole lot to unite around. So one group decided to call themselves Atheism Plus, where they gave a list of things that they believe on top of being atheists, which majoritively were all social justice issues, which created a schism. And then the anti-SJWs started to come about, who did not like this notion and did not want to be associated with this notion. And so that's kind of how that whole thing kind of initially got started. And that was around the same time Rebecca Watson had her Elevatorgate scandal, where she got followed into an elevator by a guy at a con at 3 a.m. and just kind of made a video where she's like, yeah, that's not cool, don't do that. And
yeah,
lost their fucking minds.
I hadn't realized. I guess I recontextualized Elevatorgate in my head, because I didn't realize he had like followed her, like cornered her, left the hall with her, followed her into the elevator. I thought it was like literally just some guy asking her to his room. I didn't realize all the circumstances of that. So
yeah,
going back, you can definitely see her side of it a bit more, I think. and a lot more. It's an important conversation, I think, for her to bring up.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing was kind of like a nothing burger that everyone ended up turning into the biggest scandal on YouTube at that particular time, at least as far as this community was concerned.
Fun fact, Lundy, this is also around the time they made the list that you were on and I wasn't.
Yeah, they made a list of safe atheist YouTubers, and Lundy was featured on it, and Matt was very, I don't know if surprised or shocked was more of the response, because, what was it again, Matt? You were just kind of baffled that you weren't allowed on it, and yet Lundy was, because he was...
No, I was more baffled by other people being on it and not me.
Yeah, I don't think Matt had a problem with me being on it, because, I'm not that, but...
Well, no, I was thinking more like low profile versus whatever
It's
Matt
like half
was.
these guys are fucking sex creeps.
So yeah, Matt got a little offended by that. But yeah, this is a whole thing that like consumed not only YouTube at this particular time, but also Twitter, which was fucking women in the atheist community, more or less, or even just general feminist YouTubers or things like that, getting harassed and feeling unsafe. And then this list was made of like safe people to go to. That didn't go well, by the way.
It doesn't sound like a good idea.
We're not going to be getting into the details of that.
Yeah.
But
this is all a long roundabout way.
Turns out the female atheist chose poorly.
Yeah.
There's a long history with it leading up to the eventual creation of the Drunken Peasants podcast, which eventually spawned off Deep Fat Fried. Now, I think it's worth pointing out, because I think it was a funny thing. The way that I came across you was every now and again I'll check in to see how certain people I used to watch from years and years ago are doing. And something just popped into my head to, I haven't seen what TJ and them have been doing for a few years. I've not particularly been a fan of them. But I saw they were live and had been going for like 30, 45 minutes, and we're in this huge screaming match because TJ had interrupted Paul's ego to like comment on somebody in the chat. And I wanted to go back and listen from the beginning, and heard Paul describe this crazy stalker who had made dozens and dozens of videos about him over the past 6 months.
Over 100, he said.
Yeah.
Hundreds of videos.
Yeah.
And TJ and Scotty both agreeing with him that if anybody was Brett Keane, with the accusation being levied against him, you were definitely the one. I think I checked your channel about 2 or 3 minutes after and saw that you had maybe 15 videos on it.
Right,
and
yeah.
that was the first canary in the coal mine as to how this was going to go. And then immediately after, I saw the giant fuck you debate for 5 hours.
Quote unquote debate.
Yeah, yeah.
Christ.
So you guys aren't familiar then with the content like leading up to that, the reason why Paul's so salty with me.
I'm familiar with a little bit of it, like certain details, but you want to go over anything for Matt and Lundy?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I was a fan of DP back in the day. DFF, on and off, I've watched a little bit. I definitely noticed a sharp decline in quality, I think. I stopped watching for a bit, and I checked back in last year, and I saw like Paul had become like a Taoist, and TJ was like, at some point last year, he like abandoned atheism for like chaos magic and shit. And so I got more into like what was going on. I'm a big political guy, I guess. So from like the lib left perspective, and I saw like a lot of the advocacy that Paul was doing. He claims to be on the left politically and a big labor guy. I saw a lot of the advocacy he was doing being counterproductive and sort of bringing us further away from the goals. So a lot of the criticism, especially after the election, centered on that. And so I thought that maybe I could use this active like troll community that Paul has, because it's there's so much momentum and energy in it, as sort of like an artistic cover to make the political and philosophical arguments I wanted to make. And from there it's kind of spiraled into what it is now, I guess, which is the debate.
are you familiar? Because Goat told me that apparently Paul's a Taoist now, or at least calls himself one.
Yes.
That is hilarious.
What do you know? What the fuck the path was here? Why the hell they turned into these weird pseudo spiritual people?
You know, I'm not really sure. So you guys, you know, I'm an atheist. I mean, you know, religions are sort of interesting to me, but I think like it's important for people to be grounded in reality and to have a good, you know, like a good filter for how they test things in the world. And like they kind of have like a good formula for logic and empiricism and determining what's real versus like what's, you know, artistic, wishful thinking or whatever. And I think that at some point they kind of just lost that filter. And it seems like even when you argue with Paul, like a lot of it is he's not living in reality. He's projecting whatever he wants onto the situation, I think. And so I think that probably plays a big role in it. But I mean, that's typically, I think, how people turn to religion, you know, especially former atheists who become religious.
I wasn't able to watch very much of the shit show, as it were. Goat would link me like particular timestamps and be like, dude, you have to see this.
I had like nothing to do at work, so I just had it on in the background the entire time, and it would kind of lull for a little bit, and then I'd just hear the screaming, and it's like, oh, I gotta turn it up to make sure I hear everything with this. And it would, about the time he turned into Courage, the Cowardly Dog, was around when I started losing it.
Can we move on about how you lied to your audience? Can we move on to the lies you told about your Anne Frank position? Do you want to talk about kitty nipples more? Yeah, I love all the memes, by the way. Like, those are great. You know, it's a good energy, I think, like the community of the anti-DFF detractors or whatever. It's a good energy for sure. There's a lot of like memes, some guy made a song too, like about the debate. It's been pretty fun.
Oh no.
It reminds me of, you know, the old school DP days. But yeah, so
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just wondering, like, because I only saw like bits and pieces of it, like, I think I got linked to the point in time in which I kept calling you a faggot over and over. That was fun.
Yes.
There was the one.
Now, of course,
where...
we clearly support homophobia.
Yeah,
I'm just imagining Paul screaming
yeah.
faggot like Michael Richards did the N-word.
He basically did.
The main thing I will say though is like I think that I'm not trying to obviously speak for you on this, but like I don't care what anybody yells at me or anything like that. But it was specifically the context of how he was saying it. It was like, hey, you know, people like get pretty heated in arguments and stuff like that. And then he was like, yeah, you and your little girlfriend, I bet you all just love each other so much, you little fat. And then like it just kept going and going.
Said to compare the Obama and Biden administrations to the Trump administration when it comes to the policy of Iran. Oh no, you're going to mute me for the 300th time? Oh no.
Faggot ass, please. Thank you, faggot.
God, man. He is
faggot.
literally...
Yeah, faggot.
You're
like a little faggot. You're not listening, like a little faggot. Yes. Next.
You are not participating in the conversation in a way. Okay.
That's ridiculous to say of me. Paul, his replay.
You will hold the fuck on. This is my channel, not yours.
Go report.
Yeah, he was. He took the homophobic route with me, which I thought was funny. You know, I'm. One thing about like doing the channel and just keeping like my identity or my personal life out of it is that I don't really have much of an ego attached to, you know, like the insults or whatever. And it's Paul, right? So you're already kind of.
Yeah.
Anything Paul says, you're going to kind of like look down on because he's so ridiculous. So I wasn't really offended by it. I was just thinking the whole time, like, wow, he's like both him and the moderator are just making themselves look so bad.
Now,
like
in his defense, you do have to remember he was alive in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Yeah. He asked me too, like later on, he's like, what, you've never like said the N-word at some, like you've never yelled the N-word in anger. I'm like, bro, what? Like, no, I don't think so. Like, but this implies that like he's yelled the N-word at someone in anger, which is pretty wild. I don't know. He can't help but tell on himself, you know.
I think Goat told me he likened it to a fight that happened between a couple of people at the end of the last days of the Opie and Anthony show.
Oh yeah, so this is all men screaming in front of microphones for truckers entertainment, the modern day Roman gladiators of our times. But it was all just a bunch of like this one guy who was working at the station got fired or reprimanded for it, and they tried to have the conversation afterwards to try to get him his job back. It's like, look, we're a pretty raunchy show. We get into stuff sometimes, and it just kind of, people slip out things when they're angry, and they're not meaning it in a certain way. And then they're like, well, let's listen to a clip of it. And then he's literally like, no, Mark, you suck penises. You suck penises. You kiss men and suck penises, you faggot.
What I am doing here is I am insulting you specifically for being gay. I am making that very unclear. Very clear.
And even like 90s gay or 90s faggot or whatever, that's still from like insulting gay people, which it's like whatever. I understand it's part of like the, colloquial way that people speak, but it's that's still what it is. You can't really divorce it from that. So I don't think I don't think it makes Paul a giant homophobe, but I think that it is telling that that's where he goes when he wants to insult
it means
someone
he's
who's
willing
gay.
to use homophobia as like a weapon.
I don't even think that. I think it's just pure laziness on Paul's part.
Maybe.
Yeah, I tend to lean more in that one. I think
he used to be so creative with insults.
Yeah, as somebody who
that's the general
delved into
criticism
that side of the atheist community, like, this is like, the tank is empty bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I got actually nothing to critique you on, so I'm just gonna call you a slur.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I kept on wanting him to engage with the arguments too that I was making. I kept on trying, like desperately in the debate to bring it back to labor and to healthcare and shit, and he just wanted to take it all over,
Yeah,
which it's fine, whatever. I feel like I got my point across pretty like within the first hour or two. I had done what I had gone there to do, and everything after that was just about like what memes are we going to get from this? How crazy is he going to get? So
I was going to say we should go over a couple of. That was the other thing that perked my ears up was some of the views and opinions that Paul has. Not even necessarily political, well, kind of political ones.
Especially knowing who he voted for in 2008 and 2012.
The one that caught me off guard was the Anne Frank one.
Yeah.
I don't know where the fuck that came from.
Yeah, that confused me when
if you
told
want to get
me that, Goat. I was like, do you mean a Helen Keller truther? Because I know about them.
Yeah.
No, so he, yeah, I can go into that for sure. So about a year ago on the show, he said, he played the clip in the debate where he said, like, the myth of Anne Frank. I don't believe that Anne Frank wrote her book. I think it's possible someone found her book and wrote a new book based on a few of the things in her book. It was war propaganda. I don't think that a 13-year-old girl can write a book like that. Like, and he doubled down during the time and said all this shit.
Has he actually read the diary?
Well, I mean, we're not entirely sure Paul can read, honestly, but it is
at the very least, he's functionally literate. He's signed up for YouTube.
I remember a debate that he had where he said explicitly that he read loads of books in the past. He doesn't remember most of it, but he's read Kant.
He knows
this does really sound like the Helen Keller truther stuff, but at least with that, it's like, okay, like Helen Keller, blind, deaf, dumb, mute, retarded, whatever. It's like, I can get people like trying to wrap their heads around that one, but it's like, if you've ever read the Diary of Anne Frank, it's like, yeah, this was written by a 13-year-old fucking girl.
There's a reason why the version of it that we read in school was so highly edited down.
Yeah, because she talks about her pussy a lot.
Well, I want to get into that portion. Oh, not that, but I want to get into this portion a little bit later. But
how does he wrap his head around that one? Like, It's like, no,
It's
her dad
literally
wrote
just
about
him
her
Well, that's
pussy.
it.
Yeah, it's literally just
Yeah.
him being like,
Yeah, that's another
yeah. I didn't even think about that. Like, his
Her dad wrote about her like getting her period and shit for the first time. Yeah, it's
Her dad wrote about her pussy and how much she hated her mom.
yeah. So I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, like, there are different editions of the Anne Frank book. So when it first came out, they edited out the pussy stuff, and then they edited it, back into a later edition. There was another edition where Otto Frank gave, unedited, unpublished pages to his friend who published them after his death. So there's like a historical record of the different editions of the diary. During the debate, Paul played the clip and was trying to like recontextualize it. Like, I said that it was possibly edited. It's like, that's not what you said. I don't know, man.
I like how all you all called it the myth of Anne Frank, like he's talking about fucking Prometheus giving us fire from Mount Olympus.
It's one of those things too, where it's like, where are you getting this from? Originally it was like, I wanted to see the evidence that he was using to inform his positions, because the only other place people have made those criticisms are like Nazis and shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, it comes from Holocaust denial places.
That was one of the main things he was trying. He thought you were coming in trying to call him an anti-Semite, and as soon as he saw there wasn't going to be any blood in that stone, he tried to pull the ripcord immediately so he could get out of it.
They did that pathetic, like, rehearsed, like, ask me about the Holocaust bit. It's like,
yeah,
okay, like, do you think this is making you look good, bro? Yeah, I mean, I think go ahead.
Well, I was just saying the part where he was trying to get her to go bit by bit, like, ask me things about the Holocaust, whether or not I deny it. And then she's just me like, who was Eli Wiesel? Or whatever the fuck the author's name was.
Dude. Yeah, it's what great moderation. We
weren't sitting here thinking, oh, Paul's a Nazi now. We were more just kind of like, where are you getting this from? Because it feels vibes based.
The moderation is a very fun aspect of that, but that was another part I really enjoyed.
Has anyone gone back and seen how long you were muted for altogether by the moderation?
So on my version that I uploaded, I'm not muted, right? Because it's just me recording through OBS. So you can hear everything I'm saying in that. On her end, I understand, like, I'm a little bit more muted, but the thing that I figured out about StreamYard, that was the first time I'd used that program, so I didn't know, was that you can just unmute yourself. So like, especially towards the end, I was just unmuting myself every time she would mute me. So we were fighting over that for a little while. It was fun, but it was just such a shit show, and that totally added to it. It was great.
I like there was a point that I got linked to. I don't even remember exactly what you guys were talking about, but I remember Paul
might have been the eugenics thing.
Well, it was like right prior to that. Is Paul was saying something like, "So I'm right about that. Moving on, next topic." And I'm like, all right. Like, this is the first. This is me just jumping into the fucking video like halfway through, and like I'm already like, this is not good. This is not a good look. He clearly does not want to be here. He's clearly annoyed. He's clearly like fucking raging already. We got another 2.5 hours to go.
What's so crazy is that he wanted that. Like, he called me out. He invited me, so he threw down the gauntlet on his live stream or whatever. He said he wanted to debate me. He's begging me to join his Discord. He's like, I'm always in there. It's always open. And then later on, his sycophant, the mod, reaches out to me on Reddit and says, hey, Paul really wants to do this. Are you down? And so I said, sure, we can do it Saturday at 10. So he wanted that to happen, which was so like incredible to me, because I feel like I don't misrepresent him on the channel, and the arguments that we make against him are pretty solid. The points we make are pretty, damning towards him. So I don't know why he would want to do that with like such a small channel to bring attention to it. But he, he really wanted to. So maybe he just can't not interact with criticism. I'm not sure.
The eugenics thing was like fucking mind blowing.
He's actually like
Lundy's a big. Sorry,
go ahead.
I was just saying, Lundy's a big philosophy guy, so that one was making his brain drill itself out of his skull.
The thing that I've always been focused on when it comes to philosophy is always ethical philosophy, so like morality and all that sort of stuff, and like really down into all that shit. So to have someone say like, oh, here's a good way to do eugenics. It's like, oh, you're fucking up so bad already. Like you made a wrong turn like 2 miles ago. What's going on? Why?
So he like conflates eugenics with like, I guess, like
Abortion.
prenatal, like eventually the technology is going to get to the point where you can like hack out, inheritable diseases or whatever from your fetus is kind of like where he's going with it, I guess. But so that comes from a video we reacted to where it was a stream of him saying like he wants eugenics to get rid of like, so people don't get born with Down syndrome anymore. And, he was pretty, in the video, he seemed pretty contemptible of people with Down syndrome, but
he's my enemy right now.
Yeah. He walked that back in the debate. He said, I don't hate Down syndrome. So, I'm not going to harp on it.
He seemed to, sorry
Yeah.
to cut you. He seemed to go a step further where he was talking about like in his ideal world, he would want like legal precedent against people who do have disabled children and stuff like that. So I don't know how
he's
much
actually, yeah. So since the debate, he's gotten way more extreme with it, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that clip where.
Look, if a mentally retarded person crawls out of your pussy, should be put in jail for 5 years. That's all I'm saying.
That's literally what he thinks. It's the fucking crazy bit.
I saw the other clip where he said something about he's in
I hate
favor
that I can't top this with my own insanity, Lundy.
something about him saying he was in favor of like mass sterilization.
He wants like everyone to be default infertile, and then when you're a good enough citizen, I guess you can unlock fertility from the government.
Jesus fucking Christ!
Like it's a fucking perk in Fallout.
Yeah, we all have to play on Paul's level whenever we start out. We have to be infertile and sterile.
It's like, hey, you reach level 20, you can take the have a not retarded baby perk.
I'm so. It's just mind-boggling to me. That's way further than I thought he even fucking went. Because last I heard, he was saying something like, well, if you were to give normal intelligence to every mentally disabled person in the world and explain to them exactly what's wrong with them and what their life is going to be like, they'd all kill themselves. Let's be honest. I'm like, all right, what the fuck are you talking about there? So he takes that presumption and starts getting into it should just be illegal to have kids that are disabled in the first place.
So his whole argument is that, the child's right to not exist in suffering outweighs the parents or the mother's right to bodily autonomy, I guess, which, if you're talking about ethical philosophy, the actual duty, right, of the competing virtues there is that a person owns themselves. They have the right to control their body, not the government, not, whoever. If they choose to have a child, they have a right to do that, I guess.
And it's when not the up to you to determine what like amount of suffering a person might go through in life that's unjustifiable. Because that's up to them. That's up to them to figure out.
Like, what's really funny about this?
What?
I know a certain user that Paul and TJ cannot. I know a certain old YouTuber that Paul and TJ cannot both stand, and they are starting to sound like him here.
Mm-hmm. I know where you're going.
I'm talking about amendum.
The antinatalism.
Yeah. That's what it sounds like. It really just sounds like that now. Like, well if your child's going to suffer enough, then you shouldn't be able to do it.
It doesn't really sound like antinatalism. It sounds more like ephilism to me, where it's just general. Yeah, it's just a general pain in life that everything is suffering.
Well, they haven't reached that point because I don't think they're talking about throwing the moon into the earth like old amendum once.
No, but they're still getting there to the point of like being specific about the type of like, disabilities that just should not be allowed to perpetuate in any way. It's so mind-boggling to me that a person who is all in favor of like workers' rights and like and expanding everyone's basic needs and making sure that everyone's tended to well, and then all of a sudden he fucking comes around and is just like eliminate any sort of disabilities and make it illegal to have kids that have disabilities. These don't square. They don't fucking square.
The idea that that's like
stoner.
the idea that that's his idea of like utopia too. Like one day we'll get to the point where we can make everyone infertile by default is pretty wild. Yeah,
we already have a problem not having with people not having kids, just generally speaking. The world population is dwindling as a result of people all around the world not having kids. So making everybody infertile by default, goodbye human race, I guess. So, if that's your goal.
Maybe it is. I don't know. He's expressed anti-human, ideas before about how he thinks we should just end humanity and let the apes have a shot or whatever. It's a very cynical, pessimistic way to look at the world, I think.
I had a friend a while back, no longer with us, unfortunately, rest his soul. Who was actually a fan of Paul. Now he hasn't been with us for over a year now. So thankfully he has not seen the full sinking that Paul has had over this last while. But he always, whenever Paul would start saying some cranky anti-human type sentiments, things like that, and I would point it out to him, just he's going a little nuts here, don't you think? My friend would be like, well, okay, yes, but you got to understand, Paul is this burnt out hippie who's been through a bunch and seen a bunch, and he's just pissed off with the world, and that's just the way that he is, and that's where his perspective comes from. He's seen 9/11, he's seen all these various different wars that we've been in, he's seen things prior to that, he's been around, so he's gonna be pretty pissed off about things, so you got to give him some patience and some time. But at this particular point, he's just a cynical, burnt-out hippie who's seen too much, does not justify the sheer depths of depravity that he has sunk to at this particular point. It's fucking crazy.
It's yeah, and this might be a hot take or whatever, but I honestly feel like it's what happens when someone loses sight of the importance of liberalism and liberal values, right? The whole eugenics thing is the government should take over people's rights to determine, how they reproduce or whatever. His whole thing about annexing Greenland and supporting that, it's well, the people of Greenland's right to sovereignty and self-determination, that doesn't matter because there are some, greater future progress that could be made by taking them over or whatever. I understand there's a lot of maybe resistance to liberalism in leftist spaces now because of democratic failures or whatever, but I do think that it's important for us to have that foundation to our philosophy and to our politics, and to kind of fight and take that back, especially right now in the country with everything that's going on.
I'll be honest, I think rights. As a self-described progressive, I think, look man, when you start talking about eugenics and how maybe Paul didn't mean it to come off like this, but the Jews made up Anne Frank. It's you know what, I don't think you belong in the left side of the category anymore.
There is a certain line, I think, and I don't know. I think he's probably crossed it at this point.
It's we should probably gatekeep on those two issues.
I remember seeing him having to have it explained to him why Ukraine getting invaded was something we should give a shit about. And I don't understand, I think that the empathy part of his brain is just broken at this point, and he's just going based off of his personal viewpoint of everything without actually considering anybody else's feelings or thoughts or rights or anything along those lines. Because, he literally had to have it explained to him, when your home country is invaded, that is the place where you grew up. That is the place where your parents are, where your family is. That is the place where your friends are. That is the place that you are attached to economically and materially. And, you care about that. And so if people invade you, you're going to fight against them, and you're going to fight tooth and nail because this is yours and they're trying to take it from you. That had to be explained to him for him to go, oh, I get it. That shouldn't be a fucking thing that needs explained to you, dude.
Right, yeah, and the whole thing, too, it goes so much deeper with that, too, with that specific conflict, because they're being attacked. They're invaded by a country that's much more authoritarian, that, you know, that has been shown to be doing certain war crimes and ethnic cleansing in the region. These are not people that you can live under and have any sort of autonomy or sovereignty, it seems. So it's even more than just the national identity and that it's these people are fighting for their rights, which are more important to them than just living, you know? And I think that Paul just he can't like grasp that. And in his mind, anything that furthers the goal of just everything being one government, one country, you know, he will support. So even if now, you know, you have to break a few eggs in the form of slaughtering hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, it's better that we not, you know, aid them to continue the war, and it's better that they just hurry up and become a part of Russia so the war can end and we can get closer to these mega countries becoming one country.
That's funny to me.
That is fucking retarded.
I just had to deal with some idiot the other day who, like, I took a bunch of time to help him out with something, to try and kind of like mediate between him and some other people they were having a conflict with. And I spent like 3 days helping him try and figure out a way to compromise in a way that would make it happy for him and then everybody else involved. And like on the third day, he messages me and says, "Yeah, this is getting too hard. I'm just going to give up." And I got pissed off at him, and I explained why I was pissed off at him. And he's just like, "I don't understand why me giving up should be your problem. Like, I don't understand why it affects you in any way. But I'm sorry for whatever that counts for." And I'm like, if you don't know why I'm angry after I just explained it to you, then no, an apology's not going to do it. And it took me a moment to reflect and realize this is a guy who doesn't want to solve problems. He just wants there to not be any. And that's his priority.
I want peace. I want problems. Always.
That's, you know, that's, yeah. That's similar to the situation, I think, definitely. And especially when you get into his like voting stance and everything, it's like, if you can't have the solution immediately, like if you can't just have the solution as an option, you're not going to work towards it. You're not going to try to get the incremental improvements or even the bigger sweeping improvements if they're not perfect or if they still have some flaw in them. It's very anti-progressive, really. It's, you know, it's like suicidal utopianism, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it.
That's what a lot of online leftism has become. I mean, I hate online leftists. I really do. I myself am like pretty fucking radical in a lot of my views, but I'm also very practical. You can't, like, for instance, I'm personally a prison abolitionist, but at the same time, I'm more than aware that we are nowhere even remotely close to it.
Like, progressives or far leftists or whatever you want to call us, Lundy, from a lot of our kin is like, we're realists.
Yeah. There's no fucking way we're going to be getting rid of prisons anytime soon. And even at a certain point, and this is something that I end up having to argue with other people on that particular side with, there's still going to be need for at least some prison, because there are just some people who you can meet all their needs, give them a psychology appointment every week, give them all the meds that they're prescribed, fucking make sure that they're comfortable, and make sure they have everything that they want or need, and they'll still just be assholes and they'll just victimize people. It's just a thing that some people just do. They just, for seemingly no reason, they just attack people.
Yeah, some people need to be put in adult timeout for a bit.
And so that's something that's always going to be there, at least to a small, moderate degree, no matter how well you run your society. But like, the thing for me is, I understand that I am not going to live to see those days, and that's fine. I'm just going to have to start advocating to get on the steps required to get there. But like most online leftists are like, no, I want a perfect world right the fuck now. I want everybody to stop fighting. I want everyone to stop killing each other. I want everyone to think that trans women are women immediately. And I don't care.
I want the U.S. to pull complete support from Israel.
Yeah. I want Israel destroyed now. And that's kind of part of how their brain works, is they just want Israel just destroyed immediately, right now, so that it all just ends. And they don't realize that the steps to get to like an actual resolving of that conflict are way more complicated and difficult.
Oh, you know what, Lundy, I'm going to use an old TJ-ism that he stole from fucking South Park. It's underwear gnome logic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They don't realize there's like a lot of steps in between like identifying the problem, fixing the problem.
That's a perfect way to describe it. It's like advocacy solution. That's their whole way of thinking about it, I think.
Yes.
I remember I had a debate with another user who was also like a friend of Paul's for a good while. I don't know if you know her name, Demon Mama.
Yeah, I'm familiar with her on last year. She was on his show, but I don't know much about her.
Yeah, she's the thing that Phoebe apparently spawned off of. That's
Oh,
all
God.
I can think of when I look at her is that she just looks like a clone that's...
Demon Mama asexually produced and just popped out. But she was also very similar. I remember having a conversation with her about the defund the police movement. And I, at the time, very foolishly, thought that she was, at least on some level, pragmatic. When all the BLM riots and stuff were happening and the protests and all that sort of stuff, I said, because the defund the police movement started to sprout from that, and I was talking to her about it, and I'm like, I think we need to figure out a way to like package this in a way that's actually more like amenable to the average person.
Yeah, because
even most
the
black
average
people don't want
normie
to defund the police because they think it means getting rid of the police.
Yeah, the average normie is going to be like, wait, defund the police, get rid of them? No, that's scary.
Yeah, and so when I pointed out, like, even black people, generally speaking, don't want to get rid of the police, she's like, yeah, they do. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know why you think that. She's like, show me a study showing that they have the black community doesn't want to get rid of the police. And so I just Googled something really quick, showed it to her, that it was like 70% like don't even support defunding. And then she's like, okay, but how is this data collected? And I'm like, I don't know, I just fucking Googled it. And she starts yelling at me for not being thorough in my research. And I'm like, but you don't have any fucking reason to believe what you do. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because she kind of shares Paul's mentality in that regard, because I remember her telling me that rioting is good because it scares lawmakers and forces them to do something.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, but what do you want them to do? And she's like, I don't care so long as the problem is solved. I'm like, that is not a good idea.
Underpants gnomes. Yeah, exactly. It's like throw a fit, solution, then the problem's solved, She
tried to argue that the civil rights movement did the same thing. And I'm like, are you telling me the civil rights movement didn't have any concrete goals? And she's like, no, they didn't have any sort of like policy, legislation ideas or anything along those lines. They just marched up into the Capitol and said, fix this. And then they did.
Has she
not only
never heard of the 1964 Civil Rights Bill?
Yeah, or the one after, a few years after that too, that was like specifically for housing, which were accomplished through like lesser evil voting for Democrats, right? Like the electoralism thing, it's like they hate the Democrats so much that they won't vote for them over the Republicans. But these big sweeping things that we've done, the New Deal, the Civil Rights Act, even the ACA, which isn't perfect, but it's a big improvement from what we had. These are things that we accomplished through electoralism and through the democratic process. So it is, all these lesser evil battles that you have to fight to eventually get to what you want. But over the last 100 years, we've uplifted so many people and we've made the quality of life in this country so much better for everyone through that process.
That's the thing that really fucking just bugs me about my fellow progressives is just like, the reason the Democratic Party does not reflect you? It's because you don't fucking vote.
Yeah, that's part of it for sure.
I will,
and more specifically, you're not voting in the smaller elections, because that's how the fucking Republicans, that's how the fucking crazy fuckers took over the Republican Party. They started in the 80s and 90s going after school boards, local elections, sheriff's departments and shit. Those guys eventually filter up. And you know what a great example of this? Another old atheist YouTuber, Agent of Doubt. Agent of Doubt is a superdelegate in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah, and you know how he got that position?
How?
He just showed up to every local Democratic meeting for 10 years, and they were like, we can trust this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he's one of the good ones then, I guess. Yeah, you know,
that's pretty good. He's
right on.
Now, I do feel that we have to get a bit on a dark topic for a moment here, and I just feel
wasn't enough, right?
No. Well, this is more important, and this is actually
we
serious.
went through Frank is fake and eugenics, so
this is actually
really terrified of what's worse.
The
than
more
those.
I think about it, it's actually worse than the Holocaust.
Damn.
And I just have to address the TJ in the room and say the whole thing with Paul's wife.
Oh yeah.
The doxing situation. Now, of course, we all have our own views on what constitutes doxing. Personally, I see it as, to an extent, you did dox her, which, of course, I'm completely in favor of, and we salute you.
Did you forget the Discord sound? The Discord does not pick up on the recording.
That's fine. I'll put it in later. But yeah, if you want to go into that, the whole.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about that. I don't consider it doxing. I don't feel like it meets the definition for doxing.
No, of course not.
To give you a little,
just explain what exactly happened.
Yeah, let me give you a little backstory and then explain what actually happened. So, about back in January, I guess, Marshall Manson released his video. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that drama, but basically, Scotty from DFF, TJ's brother's wife, accused Ben from the Drunken Peasants of date raping her in Santa Fe at some point. Marshall Manson put out a video that was kind of skeptical of that. I don't know if you guys have gone down that rabbit hole at all, but
I've heard a little bit of it. I know there's also the thing with TJ being a pedophile or whatever. I don't know what your opinion is on that. I don't think I caught that. If you talked about.
I haven't really talked about that too much because I'm just like, I haven't looked into it, and that's not really the type of thing that I really wanted to argue about, you know, like I'd rather attack TJ for like his, you know, abandoning skepticism and trying to like push the whole post-truth world and everything. So Marshall posted that video and it got shared on one of the subreddits that we're on to talk shit on DFF. And this Reddit user went on there and posted like trying to discredit Marshall, saying that he was, you know, he's unstable, he's salty that Paul stopped talking to him and everything. And so this was a public comment on there. So we looked at it, and just looking through this person's public profile, which is what the video was. So first we look at the comment, we say, okay, this person is, we responded to the argument they were making in their comment, which of course is like, nothing you say here is discrediting what's in the video. Maybe Marshall Manson does have his flaws, but the things he's saying we can kind of back up. And so we were looking at it like, why is this person trying to discredit, Marshall Manson, discredit what he's saying and trying to like defend, the people who were involved in the accusation when it seems like pretty indefensible from the evidence that we have so far. So we pulled that up and we find out just from, just from going over the public information on the Reddit account, like, all we did was show the information that like Paul would talk about in streams pretty much, and kind of like identify like who we thought it was. And the reason that I felt like that was done, that was done to show people that this person, most likely who this is, again, we never say the person's name in the video. We never specifically say for sure who it is. We just put forth the idea that this person, who it seems like it is, has a financial incentive to be in here discrediting this video, running defense for the business that they probably profit from. That was an aspect of it. We didn't include the name. There was no personal, identifiable, ID, no, financial or medical records in there. No addresses, phone numbers, nothing that you could threaten them with. We didn't stalk anyone. We didn't tell anyone to harass anyone. So that's kind of I feel like for doxing, like there has to be some kind of like malicious intent to harm the person, which there really wasn't. There was some comedic aspect to it. It was like a form of light trolling maybe. But for me, it was more like, we're going to investigate like why this person is commenting on it. And the fact that it just happened to, work out the way it did, it's really funny given the context of our back and forth with Paul over that. after that, Paul did a stream saying that, admitting that, first of all, confirming who it was, that we didn't say the name or anything in the video, confirming who it was, and admitting that that person is the one who put their information out there publicly. The mod who moderated the debate also, she said she didn't consider it doxing. She understands the information we looked at was public. So I mean, that's pretty much, I feel like this kind of thing to paint it as like we went and stalked his wife and we like pulled up all her like deep secrets or whatever is not what happened. I never told anyone to harass his wife. Sometime it was just a poor decision made to do something that I felt was kind of shady and unscrupulous, and then to take a deeper look at that and to see like maybe we can find out who, like why is this person saying this, basically.
This is really funny from like Paul and TJ's perspective, two fucking drama piggies from the old days where routinely they'd be like, look, I can't control my audience.
And
if they go out and harass you, that's not my problem.
Well, it's also funny because of what happened immediately after the debate, and also during the debate where TJ is in the live chat saying, well, if you guys just want his name, you should just flag his videos, and then he'll have to put his personal information on there.
If I wanted to fight the DMCA, the false DMCA, it's very Brett Keane, right?
It's,
ironically,
it's
very
ironic.
Christian of him.
It's very ironic if anybody remembers Brett Keane, the guy that they had been dunking on for years, did that exact same tactic to try and get people's personal information. Most famously, a user by the name of the Straight Dope, who he DMCA'd, and then the moment that the counter notification came out, started trying to refer to him by his quote-unquote first name to try and intimidate him.
And then Straight Dope pulled a fast one, was like, yeah, that's actually my lawyer. So have fun with that one, Brett.
And it's like that's different too. Like getting someone's, first of all that information on there was public, right? It was on a public social media platform. Paul thinks that like if I were to like reveal something about myself in like a public Discord server, and someone told him, that would be doxing. But I mean, that wouldn't be doxing if it was, willingly said by me in a public space that anyone has access to, that anyone can get information to. In my opinion, it's not like it wouldn't be something that someone could use to like stalk me or whatever against my will. That wouldn't be doxing in my opinion. So when he says he wants people to go into like the Discord servers I'm in and try to dig up dirt on me or whatever, I mean, that's definitely harassment, and that's not comparable at all to what happened in the video. But I wouldn't really consider that doxing necessarily. Now, if he had one of his like sycophants in his chat is like talking about pulling my like financial information or whatever, that would be doxing, I feel. And that's kind of like how I look at it, I guess. If I've gone through, I haven't on this account or anything talked about my personal life or revealed my like actual identity or my workplace or, my name or anything. So if they were to like try to find that information just so that Paul can broadcast it, and he understands that it's doxing, he's doing it for no other purpose than to get like revenge on someone who criticized him. I feel like that would be like a totally separate thing from what happened with us in the Kitty Nipples video.
Beyond that, the thing that like makes me fucking roll my eyes about this is he gets so incensed and offended and righteously angry.
Yeah, that was my favorite, was the screaming during that entire thing where he's just going, and I swear to God, I swear to Gord, if you so much as say a thing about my wife. He's like it's almost like he's trying to punk you in the middle of it, where he starts talking about your information and you giving him stuff, and you clearly are like, well, I wouldn't give my information because I'm not wanting to deal with everything from the internet. And he's acting like it's this big gotcha. It's like, you mean like what you did? Like, no, not really.
Yeah, and that's not, and also his, that person is on his streams like all the time, is a public figure, and purposefully, intentionally went to that subreddit and basically shared, they shared the link to their profile. When you leave a comment, it has your profile right there. So this person, like, of their own will went and, disclosed all that information, basically, is how we look at it. Now when it's, so Paul's going to go and he's all pissed off now. He's having a meltdown from the debate because he looked really bad in it. That clip where he calls me a faggot a bunch of times kind of went like semi-viral. Destiny reacted to it, which was pretty funny to see. So I imagine he's
very badly.
Yeah, he's just not having a good time right now about it. And whatever he feels the most offended by is what he's going to focus on.
I've seen a few posts. I've seen a few posts on the subreddit, and there were people saying that he's been backpedaling, but at the same time, I'm noticing that on his actual account, he's kind of just accusing anyone who's giving him some type of criticism of just being a bunch of bot accounts.
Yeah, like and it's not only me too. Like he was talking about people in the server that I'm in that don't have anything to do with it. He was talking about like just other haters that he has who aren't even involved with this at all. Like some dude from his Discord a year ago.
Well, I mean,
it's Brett Keane, dude. It's so Brett Keane.
The whole thing about like, how dare you do this to my wife? I mean, how long did we hear about Dorn? On
they dug up Brett Keane's police record. They dug up Brett Keane's police record and made fun of his wife for domestic abuse for like 10 years or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like
in their first confrontation, didn't they play that one guy, the Side 10 Atheists?
Oh yeah,
musical where he's just like part of it is Brett's just beating the shit out of his wife, and Paul's like laughing and dancing and singing it.
I'll beat up my wife.
Come on.
I'm gonna beat my wife.
Oh. That's...
I will punch her in the fucking face.
They said wild shit about Dorn. They said she had like oatmeal tits, so they were gonna put her face on a shirt. Like, there's so much shit they said about her, like during DP. It's so ridiculous. It's so hypocritical.
9+ hour long compilation videos of them just talking about Brett and his family.
And I wonder how long it is until Paul makes the video where his wife's on the floor in shitty makeup and being like, "We need money. Beg for money on camera."
Talk about how we're gonna get evicted. Do it.
Yeah,
Put on your fucked up dollar store makeup.
I hope his, and so after the debate, towards the end of the debate, Paul tried another tactic where he said, "You don't see me as human. Can't you see my humanity," or whatever. And I decided, you know what, bro, fine. I can see your humanity. Okay. I understand that what you're doing is just emotional manipulation, but I'm going to acquiesce to it. If I really did upset your wife in the way that you're saying I do, which seems really extreme, and I don't know, but that was not my intention. I'm going to take the video down. So, a day, I told him, no, I'm not going to do it during the debate. And then within a day of that, I put out a statement saying, look, it was not, explaining my decision. And I just privated the video at this point. So it's down. I was not intending to, I guess I wasn't intending to upset him to the degree that I did over that. And I also don't want that to really be the focus of the channel. Like, I want the other videos, which are more substantive, to be what people look at. And that video also wasn't even like the most popular video on there. It got way more popular after Paul mentioned it in the debate. When I unlisted it, it had gained some more views. So, it went up a little bit by the time I took it down. But yeah, it's not a big deal for me to remove that and to just not, I don't have to shit on his wife to shit on him. That's fine.
Man, you really either die a hero or live long enough to turn into Brett King.
Yeah, I guess so, man. I'm just kind of like looking at it as a moment where, Paul's like, the only thing you got out of this is to make me your enemy. And it's like, I can have compassion for my enemy, like, I don't know. I think sometimes we can look at opportunities like this to like be the bigger person in the situation. That's how I look at it at this point. I'm kind of ready to, I don't need to, play in that drama, whatever.
That ending where he was basically demanding that you get on your knees and call him sir before.
Yeah, like what?
That was Also, just like the moderator on top of it, acting like it was.
I just imagine he's screaming like Mel Gibson did to his wife that one time.
He was screaming like you called me sir.
I hate that you confirm everything I've been saying tonight. Goat and Lundy.
Yeah, you're trying to be all fucking hyperbolic about it, and we're like, no, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally Paul. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Yeah, he's an interesting guy for sure, and it was a fun adventure. Yeah,
I like Paul. Like, he was the one guy out of that whole like crew in the atheist community that I,
Well, you caught back up with him like a little while ago with when he started talking with Destiny, didn't you?
Yeah, like that was probably a year ago, and thinking back on it, it's like, yeah, he was saying some weird shit back then too, but I guess I was just more like, oh fuck, it's a fellow like old school YouTuber in here, like we can tell the children about like the old times.
Yeah, I mean, he can definitely be chill. Like there were moments of the debate where like he would switch back and forth to being super angry to just having a conversation. He definitely has that aspect of him too, where you can just be a nice, chill guy and you can have a conversation with him. I get that for sure. But there's this other aspect.
It was just such a weird watch to have him like in the beginning of the whole thing, just like mocking the idea that he would like rage out or something like that. Like he literally started the whole thing by being like, "I hate you and I never want to see you again. Fuck you, rage quit."
It was that thing of like. It felt like he was trying to do like a wrestling thing for a little bit, but when you start hearing him like go as hard as possible, it's like, oh no, he's actually mad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, when he got into Courage the Cowardly Dog speech,
yeah.
we jumped the shark.
That shit was so. When I saw the meme of his face on Courage and then the fucking audio, I lost
all
it.
of this.
Dude,
all the things I do for love.
I think wasn't all of this literally over like a 30-second clip of Kamala Harris being like, I wouldn't want to talk about this hyper. Like
that was the fag clip. I think the Courage clip was when we were transitioning from Kitty Nipples to Anne Frank. Yeah.
Kitty Nipples to Anne Frank.
I know there was the one thing where he was basically demanding that you listen to the same thing over and over again over Kamala Harris saying she wouldn't bomb Iran.
Yeah. Which,
Boy,
Kamala Harris.
Great, damn it.
Kamala Harris may be a terrible person who wants to go to war with Iran. She may be belligerent with Iran, but what she said in that clip was not that she would bomb Iran, and Trump did bomb Iran, and that was the difference.
Also, just to be clear,
yeah.
Trump put us in a position where Iran was going to be a problem one way or the other.
Yeah, he got us out of the deal. Yep. He moved
the reason why Iran was like, well, fuck it, we're just going to start enriching our uranium. Fuck you guys. That is his fault.
Yeah, everything that's really gone bad, like in the last 5-6 years in that region, has been because of his first term. The Abraham Accords, the way that kind of like fucked over Palestinians in the area, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, assassinating Soleimani. Like you can see, like Trump's a total hawk in the area. He does things that are unprecedented by any other U.S. president. Even George Bush wasn't as belligerent towards Iran and towards the other states in the area. So it's been to me, it's not comparable. You can look and say like, well, the Democrats are also bad on foreign policy, but there are these major differences, and Paul's attempts to like erase those differences, in my opinion, is like just fascism apologetics, right? Like he's trying to minimize how bad Trump and the Republicans are, which at this point in 2025 seems fucking crazy to me.
In a time where creating like fucking concentration camps where we have a unvetted advisor calling for the throwing of every Latino in the fucking country to alligators. Where we have a potentially, from what I found out recently, maybe even a Russian mole in the White House for all we know. Like we're at a crazy spot right now that never would have been the case under Democrats, and to say otherwise is just dishonest. It really just is.
He tried to pretend like Biden sending the National Guard to the border is the same thing as like Trump's immigration policy. He tried to, we were talking about Remain in Mexico during the debate, and the thing with that was that Biden actually did do away with Remain in Mexico, but then it was struck down by a court. It went through the courts. The Supreme Court eventually sided with Biden that he could get rid of it, and then from that point, it had been slowly undone, and there were a lot of legal challenges to it. But overall, they did wind down the Remain in Mexico policy. And that's just one specific policy that Paul was pointing to say, see, they're the same, as if even if they were the same on that one policy, that would mean like everything Trump's done so far with immigration and rounding people up and getting rid of due process and violating everyone's constitutional rights and ignoring court orders and the concentration camps and immigrants dying in ICE custody, like all of like the Marines on the streets of LA, like all of that goes away if Biden, also did Remain in Mexico. It's crazy to me. It's willful, delusional ignorance.
It's a lack of empathy. It really is. He doesn't understand like the sheer amount of pain and suffering that Trump has caused that is like entirely on him, that was not done under Biden, and we had no reason to believe would continue under Harris. So it's just fucking mind-boggling for him to not understand. Like, fascism and some liberals who might not be as good as I want them to be, basically the same thing. It's so intellectually lazy and fucked up. Like, I can't.
He's like, well, Biden was a fascist too. It's like, I mean, Biden was maybe like 20% fascist. Trump is like, Biden was not an authoritarian autocrat, right? Like, he did not defy court order after court order. He did not illegally cut regulatory departments that were supposed to keep the executive department in check and be independent from the president. He did not, he wasn't an ultra nationalist. He didn't round up immigrants out of schools and out of their workplaces and almost destroy the agricultural industry, like just because he's so draconian with it.
Even after Trump's first term, I would say that it would be fair to say, like, maybe he's not like 100% a fascist, but he's close enough that it's fair to call him that. But like, he's taken every bad thing he's done in his first term and taken it up to 11. And we're only 6 months in.
Yeah. And today, I mean, and it gets worse and worse, man. Today they just passed the big beautiful bill, which is something that wouldn't happen if we had President Harris right now.
There's already hospitals closing down because they're like, this is going to slash Medicaid and we can't stay open. Sorry.
It's fucked.
To try to circle back to Deep Fat Fried and Paul, I've noticed a couple screenshots of their Patreon and that it's been a steady decline for however many months so far. What do you expect with their channel in the future? Like, is it going to be a continued descent into hell where they're just going to be bickering more with each other and trying to do anything to scrounge any money together? Do you think I saw someone theorize that they might try to go the same route as LolCal Live and just start screeching at each other?
So I don't know like their financial situation. I don't know. I assume like Pessimist Productions isn't their only source of income. Like, I think TJ has publicly talked about, having investments in other businesses. So I don't know exactly. It's hard for me to imagine someone enjoying that content for like watching that stream for 6 hours straight and donating money, but there's still people who do it,
I don't know, ironically. The fucking shouting match between TJ and fucking Paul.
That was
Paul
good
just
for
went
sure.
Nuts for like 2 hours. I can enjoy that.
That versus them like watching movies for 4 hours. Fuck that.
Yeah, that's fucking boring.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, I mean, there was one fight they got into like a year ago where Paul cried. That was pretty spectacular. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Him and Scotty get into a pretty aggressive shouting match with each other. And Paul comes back and he's remorseful for sure.
Are you crying? There's no crying in YouTube.
Yeah, hey, I'm all for men.
You motherfuckers made fun of Coughlin for crying.
Yeah. I mean, well, Paul will, Paul will make fun of
if
people
Paul's the one doing it.
Yeah. Paul will make fun of my buddy for, I guess, being my girlfriend because I can't just have friends, I guess. If I'm gay, I don't know what his whole thing is.
Yep.
You know, he
We're
makes
all
fun of
currently in the
us for.
polycule. You and all of us.
Nice.
We're all guys. And we're hanging out together. That's
Yeah, we're all fags, and it's also okay to say that because we're all from the 90s.
Yeah.
Right on.
And we're all gayer than a $3 bill.
Yeah. So.
It's 2025, so probably. You know.
You had mentioned that for your channel, you're planning to expand it to an extent. Is it more of like a politics, or are you planning to expand more out to
So
other YouTubers that you've like in their kind of zone, like the Drunken Peasants, Deep Fat Fried universe?
yeah, you know, so there are a few other videos we've done. You know, people will send in things. I did a video that's like 2 hours long recently on like Anna Kasparian and her. I don't know if you guys have followed like the Young Turks at all this last year, but kind of, and
I'm familiar
yeah, well,
with
calling,
it a little bit,
yeah, like calling them out for their weird face turn to, you know, minimizing Trumpism and everything, and taking Peter Thiel's crypto money. So, you know, I definitely want to do more on YouTubers, more of the like React kind of critical content we've been doing. I really want to, you know, I've been working on a couple of video essays, and I want to kind of transition more to that. Like, I want to be able to do more produced content. I wasn't expecting for the channel to really go the route that it has when I started it. It was very much like an inside joke for just that super niche community that we were all in. That just, you know, kind of like laughed at Paul. But the criticisms of Paul, I thought had a lot of value. And so getting those out there and getting more people to pay attention to them and to acknowledge them, you know, has been pretty rewarding. And I do want to try to take that into other communities and other spaces. I want to go after audiences. You know, I feel like going after conservative audiences is kind of a lost cause, but to, you know, the people who are on the left, but who are too cynical to vote, or even people who are too apathetic to vote, or who feel like they're just disengaged because they're not interested or it doesn't affect them, that block are the ones that I want to try to reach, you know? So I don't know. I want to try to create good content that's better, that'll be more appealing to a broader audience, and to kind of get that out there. I definitely want to keep on doing the React stuff. I might take a little break from the Paul DFF content. You know, I feel like this was a pretty good finale for that saga on my channel for the time being. I would like to do, you know, I'd like to stream some more, maybe do like move the React kind of content to that and cover that kind of stuff on there. So I have a lot of ideas for it. I definitely want to do more debates. I think there's a lot of value in that. The first debate that I had with the moderator who moderated our debate, I feel was a pretty substantive conversation. So yeah, I just
not being Paul's mute button monkey.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. She's much better on her own than playing sycophant, I think. It's new though, you know. It's very new to me. I've done other stuff online, but I've never run a YouTube channel really. So it's a fun experience. I'm kind of working out exactly where I want to take it, but you know, the community aspect is really good. I've gotten a lot of support from people, and it's a really fun time.
If your goal, by the way, is debating a lot more, I will say that YouTube's probably the least friendly towards that in terms of like other creators willing to try and kind of stick their necks out and shit like that. I will say that if you multi-stream to TikTok, you're going to be a lot more likely to find people, especially if you have like incendiary like titles for your streams to be like debate me about X, Y, and Z, like Trump is the worst president we've ever had, debate me, blah, blah, or something like that. Those sorts of things will be a lot more useful because TikTok's more frequented by the average person who just sees a stream and goes, "What? This guy don't like Trump? Let me call this motherfucker." Yeah, there's so you're gonna be a lot more likely to get people on there. Other content creators are a lot less likely to stick their necks out in places that are uncertain. If they think they can win, then they're fine debating you, generally speaking. But if you show any level of competence, it's going to turn to a shit show like immediately. And when other people see what level of competence you have, that's going to cause them to be like, you know what, I'm not going to bother. It's because they want easy wins. They want some idiot to just call in and be like, so I think the minimum wage should be $50 an hour. And That's what they want.
We should trans
Yeah.
all kids.
Yeah. Forcibly from birth.
I mean, I hadn't even considered like TikTok, but yeah, that's probably a good idea. I was thinking of cutting up a few shorts from like already we have, dozens of hours of content on the channel that I could probably make at least a few dozen shorts from to get into, to spread it a little more. So I can definitely, release that on TikTok too. What about, do you guys like recommend Twitch at all? Or I know that's mostly like just streaming, but
you'll probably run into more people who would, or more issues of like getting banned occasionally.
So you're more on kind of like the liberal side of things, and Twitch is very much like hardcore, like ultra lefty biased right now. So I'm not sure that'll be super helpful for you. Kick might be a little bit better, but even then, like that's kind of a shit show of a site because it's mostly just people doing IRL streaming and like
maybe Rumble
going nuts. Rumble, maybe you might get some folks on Rumble.
You might get a few like that tends to lean more right, so you might grab some people from there, like comments or something.
And you do kind of want to go on right-leaning platforms a little bit, because that's where you're gonna more likely find people who are gonna like actually come at you. Because I'll tell you this, Paul's probably the only like quote unquote, I'll say that, progressive, who would actually have a debate like this. Most of them, they don't bother because they just do not want to ever look even remotely wrong about anything.
Well, to be fair, he's too big for that. He's an internet celebrity. He can't talk to little people except for someone with 300 subscribers who he's driving up the wall.
Yeah, 50 of those subscribers too are like from the debate. So I don't know, he doing the debate
the rest
was.
Of them are a collection of everyone on the subreddit and also all of my bot accounts.
Yeah, all of my alts for sure.
Also, I just desperately need somebody to be on TikTok debating that's not Dean Withers because God, I hate him.
Well, you don't like Pizza Time?
I don't like Pizza Time. I don't like him coming out doing like a 3-hour stream talking about how like microaggressions that he didn't even see and can't even repeat, and apologizing for like several hours for something that he wasn't even a part of. And then having people come on being like, white people need to educate themselves on the racism of America and the racism that is inherent in everything that they do, and have him sitting there like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. You're like, I right now, I'm sitting and I'm listening. Shut up. You're a nerd.
I'm sorry. I accidentally blinked out in Morse code the 14 words.
There needs to be people who are willing to call other people like retards. That needs to be a thing. And you just can't. Like,
what was his apology to Nick Fuentes? It was like, I'm sorry.
Did he? Fuck
yeah,
me.
It was him or Parker apologized to Nick Fuentes over something. I remember doing the
so
live.
dumb. That's so dumb. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this was a while ago, man.
Yeah,
I thought it was so fucking cringy whenever everyone was rallying behind Parker, screaming at Charlie Kirk while he was in the middle of his demon smile, and said, "You're fucking disgusting," and everyone was, clapping and saying that he was awesome. But yeah, no, I think it's just the fact that they're young and they're into politics is the main reason people go for.
Well, here's the thing: it's not going to get any better because they have no real world experience.
Probably not.
It's to sit there and have a 3-hour stream over what someone else said in a 5-minute like TikTok.
Well, this is the thing. I constantly remind people in D.GG of like, you're not a normie. You're not like the average fucking voter in this country. The fact that you are in a debate streamer's Discord server shows that.
I will say, if you do go on TikTok and get people there, you're going to hear some crazy shit. And when I say crazy, I don't mean like ultra racist necessarily. I mean stuff like, oh, so you found an article on Google and you read it and you think that's true? And then you're going to have to sit there and reset and figure out how you talk to somebody who just disbelieves literally everything they read in favor of their personal vibes, and how to have that conversation. because that's going to be a rough one.
Running into
It sounds like a fun challenge. I don't know. Sounds interesting for sure. Yeah.
You read a study and you believe it? Interesting.
What I think
What's
of,
the source
you go
for
to
that?
NPR, it starts with N and ends in R. I'm not. That's some Yankee vibes.
And then they'll provide like fucking flat earth anti-vax.org or whatever is their source. It's a fun time for sure. People
I
are just
believe in
selective
this
with
science
what they
bullshit.
want to
Now,
believe.
if you go to .blogpost.com, that's going to tell you everything you need to know about the Earth.
Definitely.
The thing with Dean and Parker, it does, to go off on a little bit of a tangent here at the end, it does remind me of, I think, when was it, Matt? 2019, 2018? Matt decided, like, you know what? I'm going to get really involved in my local politics scene. And I've joined the local Communist Party. I'm going to check it out. And he went there, and I think, what was it, Matt? It was literally just a bunch of octogenarians.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dudes who look like fucking Ned Flanders' dad. Just a bunch of old fucking beatnik fucks. And then I left because I stopped paying the dues to buy a crossbow.
There's a very Matt
doesn't have a lot of dedication.
Well, 2020 was a weird time for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
The world
got
was
really
ending,
into
right?
squirrel hunting and moonshining.
For like a month.
Matt found his way in the new normal.
Right on. Was there anything else you guys wanted to have me address while I'm here?
Nothing on my end. What do you think?
I'm trying to think of anything. What's your favorite soda?
I mean Coke, probably. Just classic
Son of a
Coke.
bitch.
What you think of?
Fuck this guy! Holy
wait, hold on.
shit.
Let's run
Look,
this.
I'm just glad he
Pepsi
didn't
guy?
say Dr. Pepper.
Hold on.
Kill yourself, Matt.
Let's run the other side of it real quick. Dr. Pepper, yeah or nay?
No, Dr. Pepper is like probably just below that for sure. I can do Dr. Pepper.
Okay, he saved it a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, I can fuck with
I was
Dr.
getting
Pepper.
real close to doing I was gonna do a tactical Paul moment, but you saved yourself.
Can I say I'm a Coke faggot, I guess? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. I love sucking Coke. Man, I love sucking Coke with my boy.
Man, a nice ice cold Mexican Coke though. Are you kidding me? Like that's where it's at, man.
Brother.
With the sugar cane. Oh.
Yeah. Someone say cane.
What the fuck does that mean?
Just shut up. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you for coming on. This was fun.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back whenever. It was a good time.
Hell yeah.
All right, good luck with your future, I guess.
Don't say endeavors, that's bad.
I didn't
I
say
appreciate
that.
My goal is to destroy fascism, so I appreciate
you got a
that.
lot of work ahead of you on that one.
I know. It's gonna be a long few years.
You won't have a lack of anything to do.
If midterms go well, I'll take a vacation then. But yeah.